So, first of all, shout out Ty Harris for a really good performance against the LA Sparks. I really want that to be a point before I talk about this. Shout out Ty Harris. Really, really good performance. And look, it's one of those things where I don't know if you can play too much better than what Ty Harris did. As a player that hadn't been in the rotation, came in as a starter, and I feel like did very well. I feel like she didn't really put a foot wrong. They didn't guard her at all, and she hit shots. That's all you want to do. And defensively, she was fine. Took care of the ball. We're not going to say one negative word about Ty Harris as she played. But there was a really interesting thing from one of Kelsey Mitchell's interviews. So Kelsey Mitchell was being interviewed today, and it's something that I don't know if this bodes well for the Caitlin Clark injury or the way people are talking about it, but she's talking about it, and she's like, Ty Harris, she was struggling, with confidence because she didn't really know what her role was in the team. And I think the unfortunate truth is that they drafted Raven Johnson. When she was signed, I can guarantee you that the Indiana Fever thought they were stashing, they were going to stash Iana Martin, that they were going to take Gabriela Jaquez, or they were going to go and I don't even know what else they're going to do, but they thought they were going to be guaranteed to be either able to stash Martin or draft Jaquez, and that Ty Harris would have just been the sure thing backup point guard, which she started the season as. But Raven came in, and Raven's been outplaying Ty. She just has. Ty, I think, is clearly the better starter. But obviously, as a bench player in limited minutes, Raven offers more. And she doesn't offer just a little bit more. She offers a lot more. But what Kelsey Mitchell said is a little bit concerning, because you've got two sides of the extreme talking about it. And I got to discuss one of the sides, which is going to be the title of this video, because it is clickbait. It's not even going to be clickbait because it's a topic that has to be discussed. Kelsey Mitchell mentioned that Ty Harris is getting ready to play a bigger role. Ty Harris, unless Raven Johnson is going to be taken out of the rotation, those minutes are probably going to come at the expense of Caitlin Clark, who's already playing a career low in minutes. It either means Caitlin Clark could be could genuinely be hurt more and have to play less minutes, or they're trying to trade Caitlin Clark. I don't think they're trying to trade Caitlin Clark, but people are talking about that. Plenty of people are talking about, do the Fever want to start Ty Harris and trade Caitlin Clark? And we have to discuss this fucking topic because it's never ending. I hate to say this, it would make so much sense from a basketball standpoint, because clearly, not saying this, Caitlin's not the best player on the team. Clearly, the Fever don't want Caitlin Clark. Saying not don't want Caitlin Clark, are indifferent on whether or not they have Caitlin Clark. From a basketball perspective, Caitlin Clark, the human, Caitlin Clark, the person, and the version of Caitlin Clark that can beat his off-ball player, they'd be happy with that. They'll absolutely be happy if that player exists. But that's not what Caitlin Clark wants to do. It's not what Caitlin Clark's at her best. And if you want a player to do that, you can find somebody. The version of Caitlin Clark that Stephanie White wants Caitlin Clark to be, Ty Harris gives you 80% of that player. Because Ty Harris is that point guard who's going to dribble the ball down the floor, who's going to pass the ball to Kelsey Mitchell, and then is going to get the fuck out of the way, spot up for three, and drive to the basket when she can. She is a solid point guard. She's solid. It is, if you have a team of wings, she's not bad at any aspect of basketball. And if you need your Mario Chalmers point guard for fucking the LeBron James that is Kelsey Mitchell for this team, If you have a ball dominant wing, like she is the perfect point guard for a ball dominant wing. And look, it makes a little bit of sense. Are the Fever going to trade Caitlin Clark? Fuck no, they're not doing that. You cannot trade the second best player in the league. You just can't do that. Especially because if you try to trade Caitlin Clark because of all the outside noise, it's going to be for pennies on the dollar. Which is why I think they're not out there trying to, change the narrative with Caitlin Clark. Because I think if they want to trade Caitlin, they need to be excused a little bit. That being said, what's going to happen with Caitlin Clark's role when Ty Harris comes in? I think we see Caitlin Clark's minutes. I think we see Caitlin Clark coming off after 3 minutes again. I think that's going to be a new thing that's going to happen with Caitlin Clark. She's going to go back because, let's be very clear, Caitlin Clark, I know she was hurt. She went off. She was sitting on the bench ready to get played, and she was pulled off 5 minutes into the third quarter. She was getting pulled early. She was not being given her longer stretches. And then she walked into the locker room afterwards. She looked 100%. She got pulled because of a turnover. She did not look anywhere near 100%. There is a good chance that Caitlin Clark's minutes from now on are going to start with a 2. That with Ty Harris playing, with Raven Johnson playing, Caitlin's again, her minutes could be 27, 28 minutes a game, while Kelsey Mitchell leads the show for the majority of the game. And I'm just saying, if Caitlin Clark ends up playing 26, 27 minutes, and Kelsey Mitchell plays 32, 33, it becomes Kelsey Mitchell's team because it's very clear the way the games go on offense. If Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell start the game, the team starts well, they play Caitlin Clark basketball. If Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark start the game and the team starts badly, they play iso ball. It literally depends on how the team plays, on how they play in the first quarter. Does Caitlin Clark score a bunch of isolation buckets and Kelsey Mitchell score a bunch of isolation buckets? If so, they're going iso. Do they beat a team by running the fast break, by getting some passes, and by playing like a Showtime fast break style? Then they're going to play that for a certain amount of time. Does Kelsey Mitchell get her first buckets from iso or from cutting? And how she gets her first 2 or 3 buckets decides pretty much the entire game for how the team plays. And that is an issue because you've got a team fighting for style. And then when Caitlin's not at practice right now, they're probably getting ready to play a style play without her. And the style of basketball that works without Caitlin Clark doesn't work with Caitlin. The style of basketball that the Indiana Fever want to play without Caitlin Clark works better with Ty Harris a point. It works better with Odyssey Sims a point. It does not work well with Caitlin Clark. But we got to be honest. This is just a weird scenario all around because there is a vision for a team that's pretty decent without Caitlin Clark. There is no vision for a contending team with Caitlin Clark. Like, you should be able to add a player like Caitlin Clark to a pretty decent team and be a contender. But with the way this Fever team's structured, it's actually the opposite. You're not a contender anyway. You go from, I don't know, being a 4 seed with Caitlin to a 7 seed without Caitlin. But, like, there's no excuse. There is no excuse at all to be a slightly above average team with Caitlin if you're still slightly above average without her. But that's just the way everything is. And hearing Kelsey Mitchell talk about Ty Harris's increased role, you have to assume it's going to come at the expense of Caitlin Clark because it can't come at the expense of anyone else. To be very clear, it can't really come at the expense of anyone else. So, yeah, because Raven's barely playing anyway. But yeah, that's pretty much it, lads. See you guys.